Should I do the intro? I should do the intro. Alright. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome whoever you are, wherever you are, whenever you are. This is J.E. Marie and welcome back to another episode of SOL, aka Soul, also known as Student of Life. We welcome you all, fellow students of life. Now, I'm so excited to be doing this again. I am so excited to be giving out some more advice, to be addressing some more life lessons, to be able to express myself, and I pray that this season helps more people than the last did, if not just as much. Now, today's topic, my fellow students of life, is presence of mind. So, I'm going to go ahead and read from my notes so that I can give you guys an idea of what I'm talking about today. Now, in the last episode of the first season of Soul, we talked about knowing yourself by taking a look at all of your pieces. Now, this can sometimes be difficult to do when we allow our mind to wander away from us, or when we have clouded judgment from trauma. Now, what do these things have to do with knowing yourself? Well, let's be honest. It's about having the awareness so that you are present as you experience life. That is where you get your answers for change. The guidebook for your next steps is being revealed as you live your life in the now. But if you're more focused on what you have to get done at work tomorrow, then if you're more focused about what you have to get done at work tomorrow than you are about your body giving you clear signs of sleep deprivation, you might miss the message and have a fainting spell right around the corner. When we focus more on bills and enjoying what we do love and enjoy, when we choose an addiction over an opportunity, these are all examples of us just letting our minds go on autopilot because this is what we're used to. When we self-sabotage in these ways, we are perpetuating the struggle. However, in giving yourself a moment to think objectively, in giving yourself a moment to bring yourself into the present moment and to think objectively, it's increasingly easier to move through life fluidly without feeling stuck in life. So, what is presence of mind? What is it? What are we talking about today in reality? When we're talking about presence of mind and having an awareness in the moment, we're talking about having the awareness of yourself and of the outside world, and at the same time the relationship between the two at that present moment. Now, when we're talking about awareness of self, these could be things like your moods, your physical sensations, habits, behaviors, perspectives, your triggers, your boundaries, your wants, your needs, anything about yourself, that is you. Things that having the awareness and the knowledge of your own operation and how you operate in the world and society, or even by yourself. Now, when it comes to awareness of the outside world, this relates to the literal environment. This is space and objects in that space. This is sounds and visuals. These are other people and their needs and how they are expressing, projecting themselves out into the world. And the awareness of the outside world is everything outside of us. That is important to note. That is the main thing. There's your internal world, and then there's the outside world. And having a presence of mind is being aware of the two in the moment. Now, you won't be paying attention to everything happening all the time, especially because humans only use 10% of their brain. Yet, the key is to focus on the priority of the moment. And when you're able to do that, place your attention on what's happening now, then you can make an objective assessment. It's not necessarily about, like keeping your eyes on everything and everybody at the same time, and yourself, and maybe your organs, or maybe your kidneys running something, but your liver's doing something else. No, that's not, I mean, if you could, that'd be amazing, but that's not the goal. the goal is focusing on the priority of having the presence of mind to focus on the priority of the moment. Now, when we activate our attention more mindfully, we quite literally have more control over our mind and the life we are currently experiencing at any given moment. I'm going to say that again. When we activate our attention mindfully and we focus it on the present moment, we quite literally have more control over our own mind and the life we were experiencing itself. So maintaining a presence of mind is the opposite of allowing your mind to run itself. As our minds are on autopilot, as our minds are on autopilot and we're not actively attentive to what we're thinking and how we're reacting in our emotions, we are usually perpetuating a programming that has already been instilled within us, regardless of how helpful or harmful that it may be. This programming is a retelling of a story that we have already accepted within us. These are things like coping mechanisms. These could be coping mechanisms for old trauma, any understanding from a past life event, really, a lot of things in your childhood especially. So again, any things that are running on autopilot, things that you're just used to. Now, it's possible that you don't even recall this life event, yet the original wiring will continue to work as long as it is in use. I'm going to say that again. It's still possible that you have no recollection of this life event that is still programming your mind to run in a specific way. We're going to talk about programming in another episode, but what we're talking about now specifically is having the awareness so that you have the control of your mind. And presence of mind allows the chance for you to break away from said programming. Now, you could be wondering, Jamaica, how you're saying all these things, you're giving me this information. What do I do? How exactly do I break away from my mind just running on autopilot? Well, do things that bring you back into the moment of now. Do things that help you process your thoughts and your emotions. These are things like visualization meditations, journaling, breathing techniques. Oh, breathing techniques actually is the one that I use the most. Whether I'm in a good mood or in a bad mood. It's about being aware of what's happening inside my body, because when I'm aware of what's happening inside my body, I am more likely to look out instead of internalizing what's happening outside of me. That's not even in my notes, but I felt the need to say that. So the idea is that you practice rewriting old stories, basically. And as you do this, you want to give the outside world grace, because remember, you are shifting your perspective while the outside world, that the environments that you usually frequent, haven't necessarily caught on to the changes that you yourself are still trying to make. So give the outside world grace and even extend that grace inwards to yourself. Because again, if you haven't experienced something before, more often than not, you don't know what you're doing. So it's a lot of trial and error. So again, give yourself the grace to do that. So the thing that I find most interesting is that when it comes to presence of mind, I feel like for most of my childhood and pretty much the majority of the beginning of my adulthood, I mean, still in my 20s, but like still, I feel like for a good portion of my life, I did not implement the advice that I'm giving today, which is mostly the reason why I'm giving it, because I feel like if someone had explained to me the importance of it, and I don't want to say someone, but if I had known, if there was a point in my life where I had known how to apply these principles and how they affect me, then I feel like a lot of things would have changed. I grew up with a lot of anxiety. I had a lot of depression. Everyone has childhood trauma. Everyone's got their things, you know. But at the same time, I felt that I was always being left behind kind of thing, because I always struggled with regulating my emotions. And there were times where my emotions would be so overwhelming that I couldn't process my thoughts. It took me so much time to try to just get to a point to where I could breathe that I wasn't even able to recollect. I wasn't even able to recall whatever event made me feel that way clearly because of how overwhelmed I was. And I would realize that, let me say this, it's natural. It's natural to feel your feelings, especially as a child. It's natural to get overwhelmed every once in a while. Yet it was happening so frequently that I felt I had no control of myself. I felt I had no control of my life, and I was stressed out. Like, baby, baby girl, baby boy, baby whoever, y'all. I was stressed out all the time. And it's like, I picked up habits. I picked up these habits to where I would isolate myself because I wouldn't know how to operate and regulate, if that makes sense. I feel like I had to take the time to separate from the outside world just so that I could process what was happening internally. And there's nothing wrong with that. To this day I do it, but now I do it consciously. Whereas when I was 15, 16, 17, 18, whatever, from the ages of 2 to the age of 22, let's just start there. Yeah, from the ages of 2 to 22, I just let my mind run. And these would cause things like worry, which was the anxiety, so much worry. And I would fear, I would think about things that happened in the past, and I would get so afraid that things like that would happen again. Instead of thinking objectively, okay, why did these things happen? What made these things happen? What was the control factor? What happened? Literally, what are the facts of the situation? What can I do differently moving forward? I didn't have, presence of mind gave me that. It gave me the ability to think objectively about things, and that is why I feel so grateful that I'm able to do this now. I'm able to express myself. I'm able to know, hey, I need some space, and that's okay. Everyone needs space every once in a while, but I'm able to recognize, even though everyone else has an expectation, whether it be at a party, whether it's a family gathering, whatever, everyone has an expectation, and I have a need. And this outside expectation is conflicting with my internal need. And as a child, especially as as one of 5, I feel like we can pick up so many people-pleasing techniques because, well, that's how we get our needs met. That's how we survive as children. But when it comes to growing into adulthood, when you find your independence, I feel like that is when it's a little bit more normal for that to, drop off. And that never happened for me. If I'm being 1,000% honest, I went into, well, let's be honest, actually, my great-grandmother died. I went into a deep depression. I moved away from my friends and my lover at the time. And I was just in a situation where I was like, I hate my life. And mind you, I had just moved from San Francisco where I was living by myself. Yeah, I had my own place. I was working 2 jobs, and I was starting a business and thinking about going back to school. Meanwhile, trying to move to Miami. That's another story. But the point of that is that, like, I felt as if I was self-sufficient, but I hated my life. I got to a point to where I thought I would never get. And I know that sounds crazy for some people, but yeah, when I was a kid, I didn't think I'd make it to C21. And making it to C22 and being self-sufficient was surprising. But that's the thing, I was just making it. I wasn't happy yet. And so there was this conflict within me. So I moved in with my mother, and my grandmother died. Yeah, I started seeing a therapist, like I said, separated from my lover, separated from my friends and everything. I was away from everyone, and even though I was living with my parents, they're truck drivers, so they're never home. It was just me by myself with my thoughts. And that was the first time I had been like that, almost, I don't want to say involuntarily, because I did choose to move in with my parents, but it felt involuntary. And I felt like I was out of control of my life. And that's when I was able to notice the patterns that I don't want to say that I thought I had kicked, but the patterns that I kind of, you just shove under the rug, you push them to the side, and you just don't look at them again. But they started to come up again. And so as I'm trying to figure out what's wrong with me, because what's wrong with me? Why can't I control my thoughts? Why are they just running and running and running? Why do I have so much anxiety? Why am I having panic attacks? I learned these techniques, and someone did tell me before all this happened, it's best just to live in the moment. And I remember hearing this, and I'm like, yeah, got it, beautiful, works for you. And I was like, again, like 20 at this time. And it wasn't until later where I was like, wait a minute. My life is like just going, and I don't know where it's going. I feel completely out of control. Yet, even though at this time, 22 again, I was not in control of my outside circumstances, living with somebody else. I no longer had a job. I was doing all these other things. Yeah, I felt out of control of my life, but for the first time, I felt in control of myself, because I was forced to sit down and to look at why I do what I do. And it was hard. But I feel better about it. I'm so glad that I made the decision 4 years ago that I did to try. And it sounds crazy, like, oh, we all tried Jamaica, what the fuck are you talking about? No, what I'm really saying is to persevere. Not through 1 depression, not through 5 depressions, not through just a seasonal depression. You know what I'm saying? It's one of those things where you fall and you get back up, and you fall and you get back up, and you fall and you get back up. And mental health is no joke. Like, I don't want anyone to take this lightly, take anything that I'm saying lightly, because it is very, very, very serious. But I am grateful now. I'm grateful that I decided to fight and find these ways that I could change my perspective on life. And presence of mind, these breathing techniques, these meditations, these taking 1 step back from a situation and realizing, hey, this is an outside environment, and I'm having an internal reaction to this outside environment. Not this outside environment affecting my internal. I really need you to understand that. This is something happening outside of me that my internal is reacting to. When that clicked for me, oh my gosh. Lord have mercy, nobody could tell me anything for that month. Because, stepping stones, there's highs, there's lows, you learn new lessons. Usually when you learn a lesson, there's a new one to learn right in the next chapter. So, grace, extend some grace. But when I learned, hey, presence of mind is what gives you that self-control. And self-control is what made me feel powerful of myself. I didn't feel the need to try to dictate what other people believed. I didn't feel the need to argue. I didn't feel the need to defend my point of view, because I'm in control of myself. I know what I think. I know what I believe. I know who I am. Ooh, I'm feeling something. Yeah, no, I felt right. And I don't mean correct. I felt right within myself. Like I belonged in this body. I, Jamaica Yvette Marie, belong in this body. And I deserve to live my life how I choose to. And that was a beautiful thing. And for that, I will always be grateful that I found presence of mind, because I did find a piece of myself. And I hope that this story blesses and helps whoever hears it. Now, that's all that I got for you guys today when it comes to presence of mind in this episode. Yeah. I will be leaving my email because I want to hear your stories. I want to know what you experienced that made you turn around, that made you look in the mirror and say, this is not okay. I want to know what happened. So I'm going to keep sharing my stories, but I want to hear yours too. So send me an email and reach out. Let us know your stories, and with your consent, I would love to share your story as well. Now, thanks for joining me for another SOL episode. I wish you all the best on your SOL journey. I don't know what that was. Bye, guys. Bye.